Well. I guess you can pretty much call it a long time no see. It took me a little while to actually record this podcast. And the reason for that is life's been pretty hectic. As you can see in the background behind me, I've moved into an apartment. I am in the beautiful, the lovely state of Pennsylvania, and I'm in the lovely town of Homestead. A couple minutes outside of Pittsburgh, about 15. And right off the bat, the first thing that I've noticed about this place is it's like a city in some part, especially if you go downtown Pittsburgh. It's definitely got that city feel and all that, but it doesn't really feel like it. And it feels like a smaller town. I mean, downtown, I think there's only 250,000 people. And it feels like a nice town. I mean, every person that we've met seems nice. And that's what I like about this place. I mean, downtown, we live right on this place called the Waterfront. And it's been pretty nice living here. The weather's been kind of iffy, but that's one of the things I heard about Pittsburgh was that the weather would be pretty iffy. But overall, it's been pretty fun to work here. I've gotten a job at a marketing company. Pretty much what I do is try and get people to sign up to switch their energy bill. Because actually, what happens during the summer is a lot of these energy companies that bill you for your energy will go out and find you an energy company for you to get your energy, and they get you the market price. And the market price usually tends to be much higher than what you actually could be paying with other suppliers. Because in the state of Pennsylvania, you're able to choose who your supplier is, right? And so I pretty much am working for this company, Meta Marketing, and they are working with NRG, an energy company. And if you seen the Texan Stadium, it's actually NRG Stadium. That's where the original company is based out of. And so I'm pretty much trying to get people to switch over their energy, trying to get people to save money. But I know that's not why you're here. That is not why you're tuned in. What you're tuned in for is sports. And so one of the biggest storylines going right now in sports is obviously the NBA playoffs. I mean, if you just think about it, let me actually share my screen real quick. It's one of the nice things about recording on Zoom. And the reason why I wanted to do this on Zoom is because I obviously could just do an audio podcast, right? And I could just throw up Adobe Audition, which is a recording platform, and put everything on that. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it via video, and Zoom is pretty much the easiest way to do so. So now that I got you here, I'm actually going to share my screen. And kind of, as you can see in this other tab, we got the 76ers Wizards going on. I have seen a little bit of this series, but the main series that I wanted to talk about was happening in the NBA. So let's go over to this NBA tab right here, right? And on the, it's not going to let me click that. Okay, there's a pop-up coming. I'm sorry, man. This is, as my first podcast, this is going to be rough. I continue to do these. I promise you the production value is going to get better. Hopefully, I'm going to get some guests on. Hopefully, we get things rocking and rolling. Hopefully, next time I come on, I will be better shaven, more of a clean shave. So, as I was saying, pretty much let's go over to the schedule right here. And I mean, First series that I want to talk about right now is currently Lakers Phoenix, because that's probably been the series, either that or the Clippers versus Dallas. Those are the two series that I have been pretty much trying to watch it. But the thing about, and this is the problem being on the East Coast, the thing about the NBA is that, especially with those Western Conference games, they usually tend to start at 10:30 at night. And I usually wake up at 8 a.m. the next morning, and the Western Conference games are usually over at midnight. So it's not viable for me to go over and watch these games until 1 a.m. It's just not realistic. But let's check out the Lakers versus Phoenix. Let's see if I can get this series up. And now the last game, which was played, now throughout this series, the big question has actually been, can Anthony Davis stay healthy? Or will he continue to be injured over and over and over and over again? And that's kind of been the thing throughout Anthony Davis's career. And here's something that I want to say. To the people out there who say that Anthony Davis is actually a top 5 player in the NBA, I would disagree with that. And here's my reasoning. When Anthony Davis was a member of the New Orleans Pelicans, he was not good. In the sense of, he was not the kind of player who can carry his team to the playoffs and win multiple playoff games, if not multiple playoff series. And that's been something that's happening his entire career. Correct. And it is my belief that Anthony Davis, not only with the injury issues, but also another part of that is him being a big man in today's NBA. He's not the greatest 3-point shooter. Let's actually look up basketball reference right now. Basketball reference. Let's see what Anthony Davis is doing. Anthony Davis. Only one player in NBA history named Anthony Davis. So, for his career, in terms of 3-point percentage, he's in the past couple of years, he's been okay. Okay. Right. With the Lakers, he's probably averaged, let's see, you can do this quick little thing. He's averaged over 30% from threes. So while he can hit them, he's also not taking a huge volume of them. He's taking less than 4 a game in his most high season. So he's probably averaging around 3 a game. That's number one. Number two being obviously his health and kind of what's going on with him, right? Especially in the playoffs, you need to have, and this is something that I've thought about with Kevin Durant during these playoffs. You realize that during the regular season, Kevin Durant really wasn't all that healthy. And the Nets were able to still play well. They were able to win some games. But the main thing is, once you get to the playoffs and your lineups aren't 10, 11, 12 guys deep, you're going to 8, 9-man rotations. And so if you're Kevin Durant, you need to be there, because their backup small forward or power forward is who? Not Kevin Durant, right? Now, they've been able to play fairly well with Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And to go back to my earlier argument about Anthony Davis being one of the 5 best players in the league, I think part of my criteria for that is more so you have to be able to. Let me stop the share real quick. You have to be able to. Let me make this full screen. There we go. If you are going to be a top 5 player in the league, you're going to have to be. You have to be able to lead your team to the playoffs, multiple playoff wins, even multiple playoff series wins. Now, who would I put in that category? Obviously, you got LeBron, you got Kevin Durant. I would put James Harden in there. I would probably put Luka Doncic in there right now. He'd be on the lower end. He'd be like 5 for me. And then besides that, I would probably put Giannis because although Giannis, specifically for Giannis, although he's not the greatest shooter from the perimeter, he's not able to hit you with that pull-up shot. I still believe that he is able to carry the Bucks to the playoffs and multiple playoff series. I mean, they literally just swept the Miami Heat, just swept them right out. And now maybe that's because the Miami Heat were just exhausted from the regular season. I'm sure that's the case. Frankly, I'm not sure that's the case. And if you're wondering, drinking blueberry lemonade, homemade, with lemon juice, water, brown sugar, and just straight up blueberries in it. Got this really nice thing that allows us to put it all together. But I digress. When it comes to the top 5 players in the league, specifically when it comes to Anthony Davis, he's a top 10. He's in the top 10. I mean, he's right around there with Nikola Jokic. I'm not disrespecting him whatsoever. But these people in the media who are saying the Lakers have 2 of the top 5 best players in the league, I simply don't subscribe to that idea. Now, 2 of the 5 most talented, I mean, Anthony Davis, I showed you earlier, he might not be the best 3-point shooter, but for a 6'10, 6'11, 7-foot tall big man, if you're able to shoot that well of a percentage, you're doing something good, right? And so overall, when it comes to the top 5 player argument, I would, as I said prior, I'd lean more towards people that can lead their teams as opposed to people who can just put up numbers. Because I mean, if you're looking at that, you would start talking about maybe a Damian Lillard. One of the players who I actually forgot was Steph Curry. I would absolutely put him in top 5 players. I mean, literally this season we saw what Steph Curry was able to do, lead the league in scoring. Besides Michael Jordan, the oldest player to ever do that. Not bad. And so, I mean, overall, when it comes to this NBA season, quite honestly, I didn't watch that many games simply because I was winding down from school and I had a job and I was looking for a full-time job as well. And I simply just didn't have the time or the desire to sit down at, like I said earlier, 10:30 at night, some of the Western Conference games start, and sit down and actually watch a basketball game. I simply just couldn't do it. But I mean, now as things have started to die down a little bit, I've been able to watch some of these playoff games, and I really can say that they're pretty good. Like with the game going on, let me share my screen again. Let's see if we can get this going. Boom, 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 boom. All right, all right. Now bear with me. Like I said before, this is the first edition of the podcast. Yeah, it's in no means is it actually going to be a good one. I'm not saying it's going to be the highest quality or whatever like that. But just in terms of the as it stands right now, what time is it? It is 9:04 on a Monday afternoon. Sixers are down way big to the Washington Wizards. And that's an interesting one because as you see, Russell Westbrook just made a 17-foot pull-up jumper, and the current win percentage is over 80% for the Washington Wizards. And I guess I would say my takeaway, pretty much from strictly the Washington Wizards, is more so of Russell Westbrook. Is you add Russell Westbrook to your team, and it's a weird thing because in OKC, Russell Westbrook during the regular season was absolutely phenomenal, averaging a triple double for only the second time in NBA history and doing it multiple years in a row. Something I have never seen and nobody has ever seen in NBA history. But, but when it comes to the playoffs and when it comes to a time specifically and especially in a league in an NBA where a perimeter shot such as a three-pointer or a pull-up shot of any kind is really, really valuable. I feel as though Russell Westbrook is falling apart. We've seen multiple times in the NBA playoffs, whether it was in OKC, in Houston, or even now with the Wizards. Westbrook is just, eh, eh. He's all right. You can look up his numbers for the playoffs. Let's look them up right now. Oh, Russell, I know this isn't the most exciting podcast you probably ever listened to, and that's all right. As we get along, it will be better. I promise you that. And so now we scroll down to the playoffs. Boom. Okay. So, I mean, just going back per game, I mean, the thing I like to look at is field goal percentage, especially with Russell Westbrook, right? I mean, you look at some of these, especially when it comes to game sevens, especially for Russell Westbrook. Because you remember a couple years back, Russell Westbrook in a closeout game against the Warriors in 2016, it was, as you can see in this. He did not play well. Did not play well. They blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors, and then the Warriors ended up going to the championship that year, and then themselves blowing a 3-1 lead. And then obviously after that season, Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, and we know how that story goes. So pretty much, another thing I want to keep harping on, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, but one of the things I definitely want to harp on is that this NBA playoffs is fairly predictable. I mean, the Lakers coming in and being tied 2-2 with the Phoenix Suns is something that I could have seen. The big question there was Anthony Davis's health, and then also how the supporting cast around LeBron James and Anthony Davis could actually perform. And I thought that it would be a 6-game series, and then in the second round, LeBron would just be too tired to carry the team. And I mean, you're seeing it right now. LeBron James is just not dominating. He's not. He's looked okay, but I don't know what that's going to be in the second round. If they play Utah Jazz, if they play Clippers later on, even if they play the Nets, what's LeBron James going to look like? Is he going to be super tired? Is he going to be able to? Is he going to get injured again? Because we know this season he's had multiple injuries, and he hasn't been playing like an all-star or an all NBA caliber player for the entirety of the season. In certain stretches, obviously, he's played phenomenal, but over the totality of the NBA season, I would simply argue that if you include the playoffs performance that he currently is having, he seems old. He seems tired. Not saying he's done, not saying that he's got another year left or anything like that. I think he has multiple years left. I would say he's probably got 3 to 4 years left, with maybe one or two of those being as the best player on his team. But I think as he gets older, especially during these playoffs, once he is playing 6, 7 game series, I don't think he'll be as good. And and I think that's the big question for the Lakers as they go later on into these playoffs. They're going to have to be looking to see if they can find games or matchups where they can close it out in three three games on the road quickly, and finish the series in a sweep or in 5 games. Because I don't know, with Anthony Davis's injury, along with LeBron James, I don't know where this Lakers team is going to go. A lot of people are saying that they are the best team currently in the Western Conference, but the Clippers, the Mavericks, both of those teams look slightly better than what the Lakers have. If you add into the fact that Anthony Davis's injuries are just they're a problem. And it's not a fault of his own. He's been rehabbing a lot and he's been taking care of his body, but the problem is, especially with the NBA, is it's an 82 game season. And then right after that, you go straight into the playoffs. And specifically in a year after they played in the bubble, they're sort of going back to regular life, specifically in an NBA sense, where where they're playing at home in their arenas, not at a neutral site location, which I think for an NBA player makes a difference. How much of a difference is a big question, but nonetheless, I do think it makes a difference. And so, I mean, I'm about to end this, about to go grab some water. But I don't know what my next podcast is going to be, but this is actually pretty fun. I mean, at some point, I do hope to get some guests on, whether the Patreon blows up or the YouTube blows up or something. If people like what I have to say and like to listen to me talk on and on and on and on and pretty much just throw stuff on the wall, see if it sticks, and see if what I have to say is interesting and my thoughts on it on multiple things. I did typically for my radio shows, I would do 2 hours of prep, and even then, my shows were not that good. But for this, I did fairly little prep. It was pretty much just me coming in and talking about stuff that I'd seen over the past couple days, past couple weeks, and kind of some life experiences about moving into Pittsburgh. The one thing I will say about where I currently live right now is the trains. The trains. Now, here's the last thing I'll say before I end it. I am a heavy, heavy sleeper, right? And so when the trains come by early in the morning, they seem to come every 2, 3 hours. They definitely come on a certain interval. But I've noticed later at nights, they don't have the horn down. Me. They don't have that horn because here's my hypothesis. One, where the tracks are, they cross over a main road, which is where a street, it's called like, I forget, Amy Street or something like that. But it goes over the tracks downtown to this place called the Waterfront, which is a walk away from where the apartment I'm currently sitting in is. And there's a bunch of there's a Dave and Buster's, there's a bunch of little shops, Ulta, Primanti Bros. There's a bunch of places there. But the thing is, whenever this train goes by, and there's 2 sets of tracks. So at one time, there could be 2 trains going the same way, blowing their horns at the same time with oncoming traffic stopped. Hence why they're blowing their horns to let people know that train is coming. You'll see these big arms, big arms come down and stop. But the thing is, they come every so often. They come I would say every 2 to 3 hours. That's kind of the schedule that it seems like right now. But when I'm sleeping, there ain't nothing that's waking me up, and I don't know if that's an issue or not. And I don't know how long it's been since I haven't been able to wake up. I really don't remember when I was much, much younger. I remember wetting the bed a lot and not being able to wake up and having to wear underwear with a zapper kind of thing in it, where if it got wet or there was any moisture in it, it would vibrate. And that was pretty much the only thing that could wake me up. Because at that time, I'd obviously drink water or do stuff before bed and not use the bathroom before I went to bed. And during the night, my body, for whatever reason, I would just sleep through it and I would wet the bed. And it was a combination of me just going to the bathroom either before bed, or it was just kind of a switch where I would wake up and I'd be like, why am I awake? Just 3, 4 a.m. Like, I don't have school for another 2, 3, 4 hours. Why am I up right now? But it was my body telling me, oh, you have to use the bathroom. And I would go use the bathroom and I'd fall right back asleep. So it's weird. My body is quite interesting, to say the least. But back to the trains. They come in the middle of the night. They're not honking their horns. There might be some kind of rule against that. Some kind of thing where if you're flying your train or piloting the train at say 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, you're not supposed to let out those horns or bells or whatever they are because they're really loud. We keep the windows closed in here, as you can see right over there. Those windows are always closed, pretty much. And we still hear them. It is extremely loud. Now, when I'm sleeping, though, I don't wake up. Usually, the only time I'll hear them, or the earliest I should say that I hear them, is at like 7 a.m. Usually, right around 7 is when they go, and I definitely it's woken me up a couple times, but it's good because I usually have to wake up for work anyways and get ready and hang out in bed before and get breakfast or whatever. I'm not cooking breakfast either. I have somebody that helps me out with that. And I guess kind of the big takeaway from this first episode, if there even is a takeaway. You can think whatever you want of this. You can tell me to never record a podcast again, to never talk on a microphone again. And guess what? I will. Because it's nice to just sit here and get my thoughts out and look outside at the beautiful night sky and all the mountains, the terrain of Pennsylvania, specifically Pittsburgh with all the steel mills and all the rivers. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's kind of just as beautiful as how the Nets are playing in the NBA playoffs. I mean, if you look at what the Celtics are doing in the NBA playoffs, they fought hard. They've played some good games, but I mean, it pretty much at this point, it looks like the Brooklyn Nets are going to win the NBA championship. I don't know who's coming out the West. Lakers, I'm not sure. They're struggling against a really, really young Phoenix Suns team, who are led by Devin Booker. Maybe they're led by Chris Paul, but as an offensive threat, he's more of a facilitator and a playmaker more so than a scorer. That's kind of Devin Booker's role as well as DeAndre Ayton's role. So it's an interesting. I don't know who's going to come out of the West, but for the East, I feel like in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's going to be probably the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. And between those two, I would probably say the Nets, just because I think in a game 5, 6, 7, they could go out and drop 140. It was a couple days ago when Kyrie, Harden, and Durant were able to combine for or tie I think they tied the most points ever scored by a trio, and I think the team as a total scored 142 points. Insane. Insane. Well, I mean, I really don't want to end this because, like, this is kind of fun, but unfortunately, I have to. Yeah, I'm kind of tired out here, and also, I frankly, I want to go get some ice cream. There's a bunch of places around here that are pretty nice that I have discovered, should I say. I mean, pretty much it's just looking stuff up on Yelp and seeing what's got a bunch of ratings and like if it's above like a 3.5 star, like boom, I'm in there, you know. And then also just some general life stuff, you know. I just been hanging out, chilling, made some oh really good steak tonight. Seared it up on the stove. We have an electric stove and it's got the coils thing, so it takes a little while to heat up. But I mean, the steak was absolutely bomb. Steak was fire, flames, I should say. But yeah, I'm gonna sign off for the night, as I've said multiple times in the past, but now I really do mean it. Thank you to everybody who has listened tonight. If you're watching at a later date or at another time, or if you're in years in the future looking at what my first podcast is like, this is it. Hopefully in the next couple of years I'll be able to get this down a little bit better. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more listeners too, but you never know. This was fun. I'll definitely do it again. I really don't know what my schedule is, so anytime I have free time, I'll probably try and sit down and either write an article for Steeler Nation or trying to put a podcast together with a lot more prep than I did today because, frankly, although I'm not going to say I wasn't prepared or I was unprepared, I definitely didn't do 3-4 hours of prep like I would usually do if I was at school. And I mean, with that being said, I want to thank you to all the people listening now, later at a different time. And now I will end with this. Thank you so much. It has been another edition of your favorite tradition. This is More Sports. I am Zachary Moore. And guess what? I am signing off. Bum, 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 bum.